Okay, I think we'll go ahead and get started. Welcome, everyone. Thank you for being here. Welcome to the 2022 Golden Modes. I'm Patricia Crane. I'm the Commuter Systems Specialist here at GoTriangle. I manage our Go Perks program, and I will be your host today. A little Zoom housekeeping to start out with. We are in webinar mode today, which means you don't need to worry about your cameras or muting your microphones. We have activated the option to turn on subtitles, and you can do that by selecting live transcript down in your Zoom toolbar and then show subtitles. If you have a question or a comment, a technical issue, please use the chat feature in your toolbar to communicate directly with my colleagues who will be running the tech support for the webinar today so that we can get things resolved for you. Certainly let us know if you're not seeing something you think you should be seeing. And finally, this session is being recorded and we'll be posting it on our website. Here to start us off today, attending his second annual Golden Modes is the president and CEO of GoTriangle, Chuck Latuca. Chuck
Hi.
joined, hi Chuck. You joined GoTriangle in the auspicious month of April 2020. I want to go through your bona fides here real quick. Chuck has held positions at the Maryland Transit Administration, the Baltimore City DOT, Montgomery County DOT, and the New York State Thruway Authority. He's an accomplished transportation executive with more than 25 years of experience in transportation management, project development and delivery, public policy, and strategic planning. Thank you for being here, Chuck.
Well, thanks for having me today. And for my second annual appearance, I appreciate it. I'm here to give some introduction remarks, and I'll go ahead and start. Hope everybody's keeping cool today. It's very hot out there. So thanks. I'm happy to be here at the Golden Modes. We use this event to mark the achievements and goals of sustainable transportation options in the Triangle. The past 2 years have been very challenging, and from the initial change in travel habits of commuters and business functions, through alternating waves of organizations setting multiple dates for when they're all going to go back to their work site. GoTriangle is also part of that. To other employers deciding that they didn't need to bring workers back to a physical location at all, and all organizations determining alternatives and hybrid work arrangements. Through all these changes and considerations, we've all adjusted to expect the unexpected by staying as flexible as possible. Most of the public knows GoTriangle through our transit service, and I'm proud of our drivers and our operators that deliver service every day. I'm also proud of our sustainable travel services and transportation demand management team. The sustainable services team works directly with employers, universities, and commuters to maintain access to jobs and education opportunities that can improve their quality of life. When the bus service is not an option, they work to connect our people, our residents in the region to carpools and vanpools and promote hiking, biking, and walking shorter distances. They are also helping companies consider hybrid work arrangement policies. We also rely on public-private partnerships to make our sustainability program successful. I would like to thank all of our corporate, financial, and economic partners. GoTriangle looks forward to continuing to grow the number of relationships we have that make it possible for us to maintain our services. And we could not do any of this without our policymakers for support. It help us with sustainable travel options. So I'd like to recognize Karen Howard, who's on with us today from Chatham County Board of Commissioners, Wendy Jacobs, and Brenda Howerton from Durham County Board of Commissioners, Will Allen from the GoTriangle Board, Vivian Jones, the Mayor of Wake Forest and on the GoTriangle Board, and Michael Parker, Councilman at Chapel Hill and on the GoTriangle Board too. I'd like to thank Deputy Secretary Julie White at NCDOT for providing the keynote address. I know that we're all looking forward to hearing what she has to say, and we are grateful to have such capable leadership at NCDOT. Raleigh Councilman Jonathan Melton is going to provide us more information on projects that we have in development in the eastern portion of the Triangle. And I am especially glad to hear from our great governor, Roy Cooper. In January, Governor Cooper's executive order number 246 furthered the state's commitment beyond transitioning to clean transportation system to one that encompasses the transition to clean transportation that is equitable for all North Carolinians. And I'm honored to announce that he has proclaimed June 12th through June 18th to be Transportation Choice Awareness and Recognition Week. So welcome to everyone, and thank you for being here. Let's get started.
Wouldn't be a Zoom meeting until somebody speaks while they're on mute. All right, we are going to hear from Governor Cooper later in the program, but right now we are putting a link in the chat so that you can view the governor's proclamation as a PDF. The proclamation of Transportation Choice Awareness Week shows how important this is to our state. North Carolina is making it a priority, not just to transition to a clean economy, but to make that transition equitable. So right now might be a good time to define what we mean when we say equitable economy. An equitable economy is one that unlocks the full potential of the local economy by dismantling barriers and expanding opportunities for reinvest communities. Now, reinvest is an acronym describing neighborhoods and communities whose residents are more likely to use and benefit from alternative transportation options due to race or ethnicity, income level, vehicle availability, and status. So when we talk about an equitable economy, we're talking about ensuring that when we make plans, design policies, and take actions to grow the economy of the Triangle, we make sure that we bring everyone along for the ride. And speaking of rides, that's us. GoTriangle is the regional transit authority. The shorthand is we're the green buses. We connect the cities. Of course, our buses are the most visible aspect of GoTriangle. It's hard to miss a great green bus cruising by you on the shoulder of I-40 while you're stuck in rush hour. But it's that second bit, the connection, that's at the heart of who we are and what we do. The Regional Transit Authority, as the Regional Transit Authority, GoTriangle works with pretty much everyone involved in transportation in the Triangle. We manage major long-range infrastructure projects. We conduct community education and public engagement for regional bus transportation planning. We offer services for area employers to attract employees and make it easier for them to get to work wherever that might be. GoTriangle has a mission to transport, conserve, educate, and transform the Triangle by tying it all together. And the team that I work with is a big part of that together. My team is Sustainable Travel Services, the keyword there being sustainable. The transportation industry loves our acronyms. We abbreviate Sustainable Travel Services as STS, and STS is part of the wider concept of Transportation Demand Management, or TDM. I want to write that down. We're going to say it several times today. TDM is exactly what it sounds like, managing the demands of and for transportation, and that takes many forms. While we could trace the history of managing transportation demands all the way back to the horse and buggy, and perhaps most memorably to the energy crisis of the 1970s, the overall focus of TDM is encouraging and supporting the most efficient ways to move people from place to place using existing resources. And there's more to that than you might think. Our work involves a lot of marketing and education about the choices that folks have when it comes to transportation. So it's more than the buses, because as we all know, buses can't go everywhere or serve everyone. Alrighty, so the STS team at GoTriangle manages a statewide software program called Share the Ride and See, which features a matching tool that people can use to find a carpool or a one-time ride share through the state. Think of it as a 21st century version of the paper flyers that would show up in college dorms right around holiday breaks, where you can find someone who is going your way and share the costs. So the carpool matching aspect is a huge part of Share the Ride NC, and it's one that we're glad to offer because we know that people are commuting into the Triangle from the Triad, from the Triangle down to the Sandhills and back again. And while the software is open to users across the state, Share the Ride NC also houses several programs that are exclusive to the Triangle region, which we'll talk about today. So we can help you find a one-time ride share or a regular carpool for your daily commute. And if there are enough folks going your way, GoTriangle offers van pools. Now, what's a van pool? Well, it's a carpool, but with a van. But seriously, there is more to it than that. The Vanpool program at GoTriangle is a corporate partnership that coordinates and subsidizes the leasing of an SUV or a larger vehicle to transport between 7 and 15 people who are all headed in the same direction, whether to a job site, an employment hub, a university, etc. Van pools can save wear and tear on a personal vehicle, and the monthly fare is split among the occupants. So we have carpools and van pools, and then there's active travel and what we call multimodal travel. GoTriangle and our partners coordinate with companies that offer bike shares and scooters to help people find zero emission options for their shorter trips and connections to transit. And of course, we can't forget telework and the ever more important question of going back to the office. So the STS team at GoTriangle can provide you, if you're an employer, we can provide you with policy guidance and best practices as COVID continues to evolve. We were an important resource for that information before COVID-19 came to be, and it's only become more important over the past 2 years as the state of the pandemic and what constituted best practices have been in constant flux. Our Mission Impossible series of interactive webinars have helped bring Triangle residents and employers face-to-face, or rather Zoom to Zoom, with subject matter experts throughout the pandemic. And our own staff is available to consult with Triangle employers to find the solution that's right for them and their employees. Our goal is to make sure that everyone who doesn't have to drive alone has all of the information that they need about the alternative ways that we have to get from here to there. We don't do all of this alone. It's a lot of moving parts to manage after all. So we do this through a partnership called Triangle Transportation Choices, which is made up of a lot of the agencies, and you can see them here. GoTriangle's TDM program works with the transit agencies that you're familiar with: Go Durham, Go Raleigh, Go Cary, Chapel Hill, Orange County. We also work with the universities and municipal governments in the Triangle to provide a lot of the services that you're familiar with, like paratransit, Go Pass, and of course, Go Perks. Triangle Transportation Choices is a coalition of TDM staff from the major pillars of the region's governments, employers, and universities. This includes the cities of Raleigh and Durham, the towns of Chapel Hill and Carrboro, Orange County, and the Research Triangle Foundation at RTP, Wake Tech, NC State, NC Central, UNC Chapel Hill, and Duke University, and our Vanpool partners at Commute with Enterprise. The coalition is possible through our funders, the North Carolina Department of Transportation, the Durham Chapel Hill Carrboro Metropolitan Planning Organization, the North Carolina Capital Area Metropolitan Planning Organization, or CAMPO, and the Triangle J Council of Governments. For those of you who don't know, Triangle J is the name for our region's collective council of governments. In the beginning, they were all labeled with letters, and while some of them have rebranded with names that describe their areas, like Land of Sky, for example, the Triangle region has kept our J to this day. So the funding for our TDM programs comes from the North Carolina DOT, the MPOs, and the Triangle J Council of Governments. And in the case of Go Perks, funding comes from our sponsors who provide the funds for the monthly prizes for smart commuters, just in case there's anyone out there who was worried about maybe some government money going to buy gift cards for people. It is provided by our sponsors. We'll talk about that more later. We also work with other partners across the state, including Charlotte Area Transit System, CATS, the Piedmont Authority for Regional Transportation, PART, Land of Sky Regional Council, and the Wilmington Urban Area MPO. So that's who we are and what we do. Now, why do we do it? This region-wide partnership exists and works to improve air quality and reduce congestion. And the simplest gauge for measuring that is reducing vehicle miles traveled. through things like ride sharing, transit, telework, etc. So that's the surface level explanation, but we do have a deeper motivation. Nationwide, transportation is responsible for 28% of greenhouse gas emissions. So reducing traffic congestion in the triangle and promoting greener transportation modes improves our air quality. It reduces the wear and tear on our infrastructure, creates a healthier environment, and keeps the triangle attractive to both young professionals and experts in their fields. The free employer services offered by GoTriangle and our partners, that's just one component of how we address transportation challenges in the triangle. But beyond that, at its core, our mission is to move people around, to get them where they want to go as independent residents in the triangle. And accessibility is a key to being independent. Accessibility is a critical component for growth, not only for cities and companies, but for individuals and families. Increasing accessibility improves a household's ability to reduce debt and work towards growing wealth. So that gets us to the focus of the 2022 Golden Modes. Today, we're going to review our existing programming and brag about our successes in carbon reductions and financial savings over the past decade or so. We're also going to spotlight how transportation options, equity, and economic development are all intertwined, and how they all affect the triangle, how they affect you, how they affect your company, and how they affect your neighbors. In a way, we're expanding on last June's Go Perks Golden Mode celebration, where we celebrated our frontline workers and spotlighted the challenging choices and decisions that they made while commuting during the pandemic. And to start things off today, we have a message about some of the transportation options, both current and future, that are available to residents of the Triangle. We're pleased to welcome Julie White, Deputy Secretary for Multimodal Transportation at the North Carolina Department of Transportation. At the NCDOT, Deputy Secretary White oversees the high-level operations of the Rail Division, the Division of Public Transportation, the Division of Aviation, the Ferry Division, and the Division of Bicycle and Pedestrian Transportation. That's just about every mode of transportation that I can think of. She's got a lot on her plate. Secretary White has a long history of public service in state and local government, and she was most recently the Executive Director of the North Carolina Metropolitan Mayors Coalition. She's the longest serving member of the Strategic Transportation Investment Work Group, and she serves on the Board of Directors for NC Go. Secretary White earned a Master's of Public Administration from NC State University. Go Wolfpack. So let's hear from her now.
Hi, I'm Julie White, Deputy Secretary for Multimodal Transportation at NCDOT. I'm honored to be talking to you today. North Carolina is a partner to the state's 98 transit systems, including GoTriangle, and we thank you for that partnership. I wish that I could be there in person today because I know this is going to be a great event. The Golden Modes help encourage Triangle area drivers to use sustainable, affordable commutes instead of driving alone. It supports GoTriangle's goal of reducing traffic, helping employees save money, and improving the environment and quality of life through emissions reductions. This year, you've added the important topic of equity to the program, which I commend you on. These issues together are some of the most important facing transportation across the Triangle and across the nation. And they are near and dear to our hearts here at the NCDOT. Consider this: 70% of North Carolinians surveyed said they would walk or bike more if a safe bicycle and pedestrian network was available. This includes people who own a personal vehicle. And the census tells us that over 600,000 people in North Carolina live in a household without a vehicle, and likely 1 million or more have limited vehicle access. People of color are 3 times more likely to live in a household without a car in our state. Recently, the Bureau of Transportation found that the bottom fifth of earners spend nearly 30% of their after-tax income on transportation, while the top fifth spent less than 10%. Over 60% of transit riders in North Carolina are people of color, compared to 30% of the population. And over 50% of pedestrians involved in crashes in North Carolina are people of color. We must recognize and address these disparities by building a robust multimodal transportation system. At the NCDOT's Integrated Mobility Division, we are focused on 4 goals for our multimodal work: Everyone has equal access to opportunities and services. Multimodal options rival driving in terms of time, convenience, and cost. There are zero transportation-related fatalities, injuries, and greenhouse gas emissions. And everyone is happier, healthier, and more likely to participate and succeed in the economy. As we select innovative pilot programs to pursue, we use these goals as our guide. For example, our partnership with the City of Wilson to stand down their fixed route system and stand up a turnkey on-demand microtransit system is serving more people than the previous system and has become a model for growing public transit in medium and small-sized cities. We believe that public transportation that is easy to use and gets you to where you need to go will reveal higher levels of demand than we currently see. I would cite another innovation we are working on that reflects this belief: our efforts to stand up the first statewide mobility-as-a-service single ticketing app solution. And I could not speak with you today and not highlight our partnership with the communities along the S-Line rail corridor to bring passenger rail back to that line. We were thrilled to win a $58 million grant last week to do the preliminary engineering and design work for the full 160-mile corridor from Raleigh to Richmond. GoTriangle is also a leader in innovative transportation options, including intercity rail, public transportation, car and van pooling, biking, walking, paratransit, on-demand. It goes on. And of course, you're at the forefront of planning for commuter rail and bus rapid transit. Having a well-developed multimodal transportation system is key to connecting communities, enhancing mobility for all, and ensuring equitable access to opportunities and services. A strong multimodal system will improve our environmental quality and people's personal health. And a strong multimodal system is key to our region's successful efforts to bring more jobs to the area. Businesses know that multimodal transportation is key to attracting the future workforce. We have enjoyed many major job announcements, such as Apple and VinFast, and that is in part to being a region that values a multimodal transportation network. There is an exciting future ahead of us in transportation. I am pleased to see so many embracing our multimodal future head-on. It's important to remember that our goal is to make transportation access easy and available for everyone. What we do here is in service of the public, and that's why the Golden Modes and events like this are so important. We must do what we can to celebrate and champion transportation options and equity in everything we do. Thank you and enjoy the Golden Modes.
Okay, so we want to thank Secretary White for her words there. I apologize for the technical difficulties when I was starting that out. We've had some changes today, so bear with us and thank you. So obviously there's a lot going on in North Carolina transportation. We've learned more about what the NCDOT and its partners are doing to expand access to various forms of transportation throughout the state. And now we want to examine how that works at ground level. What does current research say about the links between transportation and an equitable economy? Well, first, transportation is expensive. I feel like we're all feeling that a lot today. We've all watched gas prices skyrocket recently, but the cost of transportation includes far more than just what we pay at the gas pump. For the individual commuter, it includes maintenance, car payments, depreciation, insurance, sometimes parking, and more. According to insurance.com, the average total cost of car ownership over 5 years in North Carolina is $24,780. And that's almost $5,000 a year on average just to use and maintain your car. And transportation costs have an inverse relationship with household income. The more money you have overall, the less impact any one thing will have on your overall financial situation. In 2016, research showed that the lowest earning 20% of families spend 29% of their household income on transportation expenses, as Secretary White mentioned. Some of you might recognize that 30% of household income figure. It has long been the golden rule of personal budgeting for housing. Not transportation, but housing. And as income increases, the proportion of your income spent on transportation decreases. Again, because the more you start with, the less of an impact any one factor like housing or transportation will have on your overall wealth and your financial situation day to day. Now, transit fares are currently suspended, so the average commuter in the Triangle could save more than $1,200 a year just by switching to a bus commute. With that one change, you're reducing the amount of your budget that you're spending on gas, maintenance, and wear and tear. So that's a concrete example of how TDM works for the everyday person by providing options like reduced prices for carpool parking, subsidies for van pools, subsidies for transit, like having a Go Pass through your employer in the before times, and more. The more success that we have in reducing vehicle miles traveled in the Triangle, the more money we put back in the pockets of North Carolinians. These choices can reduce the transportation cost burden on many families. Gas prices are hitting everyone hard these days, but the folks feeling it the most are the ones who are least able to take that hit. Speaking frankly, it's expensive to be poor. You have late fees, higher interest rates, surcharges for not maintaining a minimum balance, all kinds of things, and they all add up. But we don't work in finance, we work in transportation. And right now we're seeing the way that higher gas prices affect lower income community members. Local news outlets all around the country are running pieces on how everyday working families are affected by gas prices and inflation. So all of this perfectly demonstrates the need for more equitable transportation options, along with both education on how to find and use them and supportive programming to add further encouragement. Because the way things currently stand, getting around just isn't the same for everyone. And that's not a new trend. Transportation improvements have historically ostracized, discriminated against, and underserved marginalized communities through things like redlining and emphasizing highway-centered, car-centric growth. After more than a century of mechanized travel in the US and the changes to our cities and states that have come with it, this historical discrimination, this consistent leaving out, has resulted in communities that are isolated from job centers, from community resources, and more. Think of things like food apartheid, food deserts, highways that cut through neighborhoods. We've left a lot of American communities without easy access to medical, educational, and residential resources. According to the North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality, African Americans experience 56% more pollution than they create. Latinos experience 63% more. And a study by scholars from the ECU Brody School of Medicine looking at ER visits across the state from 2010 to 2014 found that asthma disproportionately affects low-income minorities, particularly African Americans and Latinos. Asthma is often caused by environmental pollutants. The TDM programming that we've been talking about today is proven to reduce vehicle miles traveled and the health-related disparities that accompany them. Better air equals fewer air-related health problems. You can see some of our statistics here on the screen. Triangle Transportation Choices, the TDM staff at GoTriangle and our partners has reduced over 500 million trips and 580 million vehicle miles traveled as of 2020. Improved transportation choices are key to building a healthy, equitable economy. The more options people have, the more likely they are to choose a different mode of travel rather than just driving alone. Fewer people driving alone means less vehicle-related pollution and less pollution-related illness. The North Carolina Department of Environmental Quality has an Environmental Justice Advisory Board. And the Environmental Justice Advisory Board's charter declares that all people in North Carolina, regardless of race, income, culture, religion, or zip code, should have access to clean air, clean water, clean soil, and the opportunity to live in safe and healthy communities. Now, This would seem to be a self-evident truth, but for a lot of people, it remains out of reach for a lot of people in the Triangle. And that is a daunting, sobering truth. But nearly every imaginable field and profession has a role to play here, a way that we can make changes that will ripple through the region and restore those basic rights, clean air, clean water, clean soil, to those among us who need it the most. So how are we doing? What have we been doing? Let's take a break and look more closely at our successes over the past decade and the past year before we look to the future. We're going to hear from some Triangle residents who've made use of the many alternatives to hopping in the Prius and hitting the expressway. And we'll celebrate the real world achievements of commuters who are able to make that choice as part of their daily commutes. But before we get to that, there are two very cool options in TDM programming that we still need to highlight. The emergency ride home. It's exactly what it sounds like. Think of it as insurance for the unexpected hiccups of daily life. The things where you'd think, well, sure, I'd love to carpool. It sounds great, but what if X, Y, or Z happens and I don't have my car? When employees have unexpected overtime or become sick at work or need to leave early and pick up the kids, we will provide a taxi to get them home. So you're carpooling and maybe you don't have your car with you, but we've got your back. Just in case something happens, you will have a car available to you. Throughout the pandemic, one silver lining for a lot of people might have been the increased flexibility in your workday that came with telework. It might have made things a little easier for those unforeseen events popping up. The pandemic made very clear the links between childcare and the ability of so many parents, particularly frontline workers and particularly women, to fully participate in the workplace. The emergency ride home provides a safety net for everyone, but maybe most of all for working parents. It lets them choose a greener mode for commuting, like transit or carpooling, but still have the ability to get a ride to pick up a sick child from school or daycare. Because as any working parent in our audience knows, if you've been fortunate enough to find an affordable daycare that works for your family's budget, you don't want to put that at risk and maybe lose your kid's spot just because you were unable to pick them up when they were sick. So if someone's on the fence about choosing a greener, smarter commute, emergency ride home is there to cover that gap for them and maybe swing them over to trying out a different way to get to work. And another way we encourage people to try out a smarter commute is, of course, GoPerks. I'm definitely biased because I run the program, but I have to say this is the fun one. GoPerks is an incentives program. It's designed to attract individuals who, like most people, are not using a sustainable commute, but rather driving alone in their cars. And it's also a loyalty program to maintain and reward individuals who use sustainable commute modes to get to work. It's housed in Share the Ride and See, where users can track their trips, see their carbon footprint, monetary costs, and savings involved in their travel, and they can enter into the monthly contest for prizes. While there are other smart commute incentives programs around the country, GoPerks is the first, and as far as I know, the only program that rewards its commuters and its local small business community. Other incentives programs tend to offer cash as a reward. We don't offer cash incentives. We offer perks in the form of gift cards to local businesses. Our sponsors provide the funds that we use to buy those gift cards, and they also provide things like tickets to local events, memberships in local programs like bike shares and cycling groups, and more. GoPerks reinvests our sponsors' funds into the community, creating a positive feedback loop that boosts local businesses, encourages Triangle residents to try out a new activity or check out a new coffee shop, and reduces the number of cars on the road. There are so many moving parts, again, pun not intended, to transportation in the Triangle. We've clearly got a lot of options for getting from point A to point B. And while it is a truth universally acknowledged that most of us are, in fact, sitting alone in our cars every day, cursing the traffic and silently blaming it all on all these other people who are also sitting alone in their cars, GoPerks has encouraged a lot of Triangle commuters to choose a different path. So without further ado, let's hear from one of our smartest GoPerks smart commuters, Amy Singleton.
My name is Amy Singleton, and I work for the University of North Carolina at Chapel Hill in the Office of the Vice Chancellor for Finance and Operations. And when I first moved to the Triangle area, I had a little apartment, and I lived about 3 miles away from where I got my first job. And then the second job I got was a block up the road. And so I thought, heck, I could walk, ride my bike. This is great. And then when I met my husband, it turns out he was a smart commuter as well. And so it was very important for us when we got together that we wanted to live and work, if at all possible, nearby to where we worked. I've been a commuter, a smart commuter, I suppose, for about 30 years now. I've worked for the university for 8 of those 30. And I almost immediately signed up for UNC's CAP program, which is the Commuter Alternative Program. And as a smart commuter, they told me about the Share the Ride NC through GoTriangle. And so I immediately created an account and started logging my commute. And I primarily ride my bike. I work and live I work about 4 miles away from where I live one way. And I really liked the idea of being able to sign into the app and hook up with other smart commuters, and you'll have the emergency ride, which is wonderful. I'm very fortunate to also be on a bus route, Chapel Hill Carborough bus route, which is also free. I will also carpool in to work with my husband. And the thing I love about Share the Ride is it allows you to log all modes of commute. And probably the thing I love the most about the GoPerks is not only winning. I mean, that's lovely. I mean, it really is. But you guys go with only local businesses, and then you ask for feedback. You're like, okay, so what would you like for us to offer you? So it's always like a little prize and present when I do get it. If you log onto the app and you log your commutes, then you not only can you win a prize, but something that I wasn't aware of was the fact that you guys keep these statistics, and that you have these like little milestone awards, if you will. And to think that over the course of that time that I've burned 308,000 calories and tracked 10,000 miles and 2,700 trips, and saved over $2,200 in gas is mind blowing. And every month I do look at those statistics, and I think this is awesome. But I also received like a little medallion because I guess I hit a threshold for carbon emission savings, and that was a real neat little thing you guys did, and I enjoy sharing that on social media. And I think I do a great job of letting people know, hey, this exists, it's free, it's wonderful, that there's a program that actually rewards and wants to hear from people that do this. I just don't understand why more people don't do it.
So you can hear Amy's excitement. She is able to use an active commute, which makes her happier and healthier. And every car off the road means fewer emissions and, of course, less traffic and more efficient travel times for people who might have less flexibility in their travel options or destinations. It might not have occurred to many of us, but being able to choose how we get around is really a luxury. It's one of those privileges in life that most people don't notice unless they somehow lose it. So I'm grateful to run this program that can give folks that little nudge to help them choose a mode that benefits them and everyone around them. GoPerks is a community program, and we work hard to make sure that it represents the community. Our prizes are from businesses in all 3 counties, Durham, Orange, and Wake, so everyone is sure to find something that's nearby to them. We look for businesses that are located near transit, greenways, pedestrian bike access, and we try to strike a balance between what we might call fan favorites and highlighting new places. You can see some of our offerings up here. In the past 2 years, more than half of the businesses that GoPerks has supported are owned and run by women and North Carolinians from minority communities. In dollars, it's a small impact, but we're the only program in the country focusing on local small businesses and seeking a variety of businesses, including those that are minority and woman-owned. And it's working. Here's a little bit more about what our GoPerks participants have to say about how the program influences their decisions. We've included some of our favorite comments and testimonials here on the screen, but I wanted to highlight a few extra comments. Emily G commutes in Durham, and she says, on days when I'm tempted to drive, GoPerks motivates me to take a more sustainable form of transportation. I love that the Triangle promotes sustainable activities and promotes local businesses. I've won a couple of prizes and they always take me to events or restaurants that I would never have known about otherwise. I also almost always bring my friends when I redeem my prizes, so we all learn and explore local businesses. This is truly a great investment in the community. And we had some other people who echoed the same things. They've made a point of letting us know that they tried new businesses thanks to GoPerks. Brian C. and Kirby S. let us know that. So even though a $5 gift card isn't much, and I'll say here that the low dollar value is intentional. It's from feedback from our users. It helps guide our programming. Users say that that's a good prize that's achievable for them. You'd only need to take a smart commute 5 times in a month to be eligible for a contest for a $5 gift card. So it speaks to that idea of making incremental, manageable changes to your routine that amplify over time. So even though a $5 gift card isn't much in itself, its impact tends to amplify. It gets commuters in the door to try new businesses where we hope they enjoy the gift card and they'll potentially spend more at the business, either at that visit or by becoming a returning customer. A $5 gift card can be like a pebble in a pond and the ripples get bigger as they go. But the benefits to our small business community aren't the only thing that motivates our commuters. We have individuals who are more excited about seeing their results in statistics other than gift cards won. Sharwanda tells us, she says, GoPerks motivated me to rely on public transportation and ride sharing services. I find that I can get to many places within Raleigh through public transportation. And when I can't, there's normally a ride share going in my same direction. And what I like most about GoPerks is the statistics that show how many miles I've traveled and the gas that I've saved. Chip from the western side of the triangle says, my hope is that my rider data is used to help justify more biking paths in Durham. And that's a great point that speaks directly to how the statistics that we gather through GoPerks and in Share the Ride and See can make the case for programming needs and infrastructure in the long run. And Tanya J is also looking at the big picture. She says she likes that GoPerks has a mission that benefits everyone, whether they participate directly in the program or not. There are so many perks to smart commuting: environmental, social, physical, financial, emotional, spiritual, and programs like GoPerks help more people take another look at whether smart commuting really could be an option for them. She said her favorite GoPerks prize was a gift certificate to the Carborough Farmers Market. And I remember when we offered those, and I think we'll need to do that again soon because they were really popular. So whatever their reasons for participating in GoPerks, there are commuters in the Triangle who are making huge impacts in air quality and traffic congestion in the region. So we're going to take a few minutes to recognize these individuals. This is a list of our Bronze Challenge coin winners. Here is a Bronze Challenge coin. These are the names of everyone who has individually reduced 2 tons of greenhouse gas emissions. The names that are highlighted in bronze here are the 2021 contributors, the folks who reached that goal over the last year. And I'll say real quick that if your name is up here, maybe even if it's not, the next few minutes are going to be the perfect time to take a screen capture and share it on social media if you feel like bragging. Go ahead and brag on the gigantic accomplishments of these folks. If you do, please be sure to use hashtag GoPerksCoin. So we'll leave this here for a minute because this is a lot of names and folks can look for their own names, maybe take a screenshot real quick. And we're going to move on to our next here of commuters. Here is our list of Silver Challenge coin winners. These are the names of everyone who's individually reduced 5 tons of greenhouse gas emissions. Again, the names that are highlighted in silver are the 2021 folks who achieved that milestone this past year. And as a fun aside, if you're while you're looking for your name or maybe taking a screen grab, I will say that 5 tons of greenhouse gas, specifically carbon dioxide, would fill a standard sized hot air balloon. So each of these names represented here on the screen represents a whole entire hot air balloon of emissions that didn't go into our collective atmosphere. And of course, here's the list of our Gold Challenge coin winners. These are the folks who have individually reduced 10 tons of greenhouse gas emissions on their own. The names highlighted in gold again are the folks who achieved that milestone this year. I suppose that 10 tons would either be 2 hot air balloons apiece or maybe 1 gigantic double-sized balloon. Hashtag GoPerksCoin. If you feel like bragging, you deserve the kudos. Thank you so much for everything that you do and for tracking the trips and letting us know. To further help put some of these achievements into perspective, here's something we all recognize. This is the back wall at the Durham Bulls Athletic Park, and that gray sphere there represents just 1 metric ton of carbon, all balled up in the outfield. Look at that. 1 ton of CO2 saved, and you're hitting grass. You're almost hitting steak there. Our challenge coin winner's savings of greenhouse gas would make the bull snort and wag his tail until it just about fell off. The average commute in the Triangle is just over 17 miles one way. We know that we have the opportunity to make a difference if we change the ways people commute, even just some of the time. It's amazing to think how something so personal as how I get to work in the morning can have such a large scale impact on the world around us. And that's an achievement truly worthy of high praise. And I'm thrilled to say that I'm not the only one who thinks so. Since his first term in office, Governor Roy Cooper has focused on carbon emissions and how the environmental impacts are resulting in climate change that affects the wallets of North Carolinians. He's in this with us, and it is my distinct pleasure to bring you a special message from the 75th governor of the state of North Carolina, Roy Cooper.
Hi, everybody. Governor Roy Cooper here. It's great to join you today for the Golden Modes Awards. In North Carolina, we're working toward a brighter, cleaner future, and events like this one are helping lead the way. I'm so grateful for all of your contributions that help move North Carolina toward a reliable and affordable clean energy future. Clean transportation is critical in our fight against climate change, and it'll help us strengthen our workforce and economy by bringing good-paying jobs to our state. My administration is committed to ensuring a strong transition to green transportation. In January, I signed Executive Order 246 to further reduce greenhouse gas emissions, prioritize environmental justice, and develop clean transportation options. Together, we can modernize our transportation sector and protect our planet at the same time. Thanks for all you do, and keep up the great work. Congratulations.
I want to thank Governor Cooper for his kind words and for his ongoing support of sustainable transportation and for doing everything in his power to ensure that the North Carolina of the future is just as beautiful as it's always been. Now it's graph time, big picture time. We're going to roll through a lot of statistics pretty quickly here. The ones on this screen and the next few slides are just some of the components of the successes of GoPerks and TDM programming all around. As you can see, the pandemic did impact some of our metrics. Sometimes that went in our favor, other times not so much, but we do continue to track the impacts. You can see a little bit of a dip in 2020 here on the number of trips that were tracked. These are the trips tracked through GoPerks year by year since the program started, and the lifetime total of trips tracked in GoPerks is 514,451. That is a lot of trips tracked over just 7 years. Here we're looking at vehicle miles traveled, where what it really means is how many miles they would have traveled alone in their cars if they weren't taking a smart commute like transit or carpool. This is all made possible by commuters who are making that daily trip in a sustainable commute. You can see the year-by-year numbers here and the lifetime total of vehicle miles traveled, VMTs, through GoPerks is 6.6 million miles, otherwise not driven, tracked through GoPerks. Here are the year-to-year savings in greenhouse gas emissions. The total greenhouse gas reduction over the lifetime of GoPerks is 5.5 million pounds. But where's the money? It's in the pockets of our commuters. Since its inception, GoPerks commuters have saved $1.4 million in gas, maintenance, etc. But it's not just about the money. You got to get out there and move. Active commutes like biking or walking have burned 23.9 million calories for GoPerks users since 2015. That is more than 9,000 marathons worth of calories. That's a lot of moving around. So we're saving a lot, whether it's in the air in our lungs, the money in our pockets, or inches on our waistlines. And beyond Go Perks, in fiscal year 21 alone, our TDM programming as a whole averted 4.2 million vehicle trips. We saved 2.2 million gallons of gas, which is approximately $17 billion at today's prices. And we supported 40,600 alternative transportation users. That's a lot of people. Based on average commute times, we're talking nearly 73,000 days not spent driving. We're talking 219,000 8-hour work days or vacation days. We've prevented the release of 44 million pounds of carbon dioxide. And going back to what I mentioned earlier, that much CO2 would fill 4,400 hot air balloons. They would stretch from where I'm sitting now all the way up to Henderson. But, you might not necessarily be looking to take a hot air balloon to Henderson, but we do all need to get around in the Triangle and occasionally outside it. Here today to tell us in part about some of the new ways we'll be able to do that is Raleigh City Council member Jonathan Melton. Jonathan Melton has served as an at-large Raleigh City Council member since 2019. He serves as chair of the Economic Development and Innovation Committee, and he's a member of the Transportation and Transit Committee. He's an attorney exclusively practicing family law, and he earned his Juris Doctor from NC Central. But before that, he got his undergraduate degree in political science from NC State. Go Pack. Councilmember Melton has lived in Raleigh since 2004, and he's the first openly LGBTQ person elected citywide in Raleigh. He's a founding board member of Stonewall Sports Incorporated, which is a national LGBTQ and allied philanthropic sports league. His hobbies include biking, riding a scooter, and playing kickball. And since a lot of my brain is still in pandemic era Zoom space, I need to shout out his pets. Jonathan and his husband Stefan share 2 dogs, Bishop and Rook, and a cat, Pocono. These are great names. So let's hear now from Council Member Jonathan Melton.
Good afternoon. I'm Raleigh City Council Member Jonathan Melton. I've been invited to speak at today's Golden Mode ceremony to touch upon the importance of today's theme of economic equity in transportation. As a member of the City of Raleigh Transportation and Transit Committee and an advocate for transit and sustainable transportation options, I'm excited to speak to you all today because equitable transportation can help provide transportation solutions for all. In addition, equitable transportation can transform economies and connect and empower underserved communities to support growth for the future. This happens through policy, advocacy, and the efforts of transportation demand management organizations like GoTriangle and the transportation partners highlighted today. I want to share a quote by United States Secretary of Transportation, Pete Buttigieg. From the construction of the Transcontinental Railroad to the Montgomery bus boycott, transportation has always been inseparable from America's struggle for racial and economic justice. At its best, transportation can be a powerful engine of opportunity, connecting people to jobs, education, and resources, whether they live in a big city, a rural community, or anywhere in between. Ensuring equity and accessibility for every member of the traveling public is one of the Department of Transportation's highest priorities. Transit is at the forefront of equitable transportation, and the development of the Raleigh Union Bus Facility Project, or RUS Bus, is an exciting next step in transit accessibility. The 1.76 acre site on West Street in Raleigh will be home to a bus facility incorporated with a private mixed-use development that will also include affordable housing. After completion of RUS Bus, Raleigh Union Station will provide seamless connections between multiple modes of transportation, including Amtrak, intercity passenger rail, planned future commuter rail, bus rapid transit projects included in the Wake County Transit Plan, and local bus service. The facility also will be bike and pedestrian friendly. Equitable transportation isn't limited to transit services. With programs like Share the Ride NC, North Carolina's statewide ride matching system, Emergency Ride Home Services, and Go Perks, the City of Raleigh and the Triangle are working towards community-based transportation solutions for all. Thank you, and together we're helping to build an equitable future for the Triangle.
Councilman Melton really tied it all together there. There's a lot of growth and a lot of opportunity at this moment in the Triangle. As a transportation agency, it's our job to help people get where they want to go, and it's our responsibility to do that for everyone. Over the past decade, we've had a growing awareness that our usual approach of working primarily through employers and universities was excluding a large portion of our population who needs our services. And further, our team of sustainable transportation service providers and our funders have come to readily recognize the limitations that we face through a lack of diversity in our staff. We realize that simply considering equity and inclusion in our planning and outreach isn't enough. The best way to improve our programming, to expand our views and address the challenges that our neighbors in the Triangle face, is to work in collaboration with partners who are embedded in local communities, who know the daily realities of the populations that we're trying to assist, and who can provide us with more perspectives and information on ways to improve our funding. Trusted community partners are able to provide Triangle residents the information that they need about the current existing solutions that are available to them, which will help increase opportunities and expand their mobility across the region. We are committed to this approach, and we're confident that it will bring real working solutions to our community here in the Triangle. And more importantly, it will lead to a better present, a better day-to-day, and a better future for those who've been left out of the conversation for far too long. So today we've shared our successes, and we also recognize that there is a lot more to be done. We hope that you folks who took this hour out of your day to attend the 2022 Golden Modes will partner with us in the most impactful way that you can. We rely on your participation to get things done. While we realize that the topic of the economic impacts of transportation and the aspects of equity, diversity, and inclusion that we've touched on today don't include all of the populations we serve or that are in need of service, it is a start. We've only begun to expand our impact in the community through transportation demand management. So if you represent a community that's missing from today's discussion, please let us know and look for ways to join us as we open the conversation to learn, grow, and support the Triangle. We invite you to the table to help us adjust our approach and focus to expand transportation options, education, and programming. New voices, new perspectives, and new experiences will help us determine future priorities for the regional transportation demand management programs so we can better serve the whole community. Okay, but what can you do today? Well, as a company, participate in commuter programming. Help us maximize the current resources. Meet with the local sustainable travel consultant in your area. Just send us an email. We'll get you in touch with the right person. Meet with them to discuss realistic, achievable goals that can reduce your organization's carbon footprint while also introducing your employees to financially sustainable commute options. And I'll say that attractive commute options can definitely improve employee recruitment and retention. If you're a community partner, community partners as a trusted voice, help us spread awareness of all the travel options that we currently have and our plans for the future. Help us turn those community connections into travel connections. If you let us know where we need to be in the community to improve mobility and quality of life, we will pursue and grow those partnerships. As an individual, there's a lot of talk these days about personal responsibility and how much impact a single person can really have on an issue as global and systemic as climate change. And that's a good discussion to be having, but everyone likes a concrete task that they can do themselves. So even if one person alone can't fix the climate, we can all help. So reflect on how adjusting your daily behavior, even a little bit, can help achieve a more equitable economy through transportation in your own backyard. If you already use a sustainable commute, maybe tell your friends and family about it. If you're currently tracking trips in GoPerks, if you're not, start. Maybe you could do a smart commute more often than you currently do. With gas prices the way they are, it's never been a better time to try a new commute. Even if it's just a couple of times a month, it makes a big difference. By attending today, you become part of our sounding board. We're here to serve the community. You're part of the community, so we want to hear from you about what you want to see in transportation, and we'd like to hear from you about today's program. We've had a few technical difficulties, a couple of last-minute changes that had to do with locations, but we want to hear from you. So we are dropping a link in the chat now for a survey. We'd like to hear your thoughts on the program today, and in the spirit of GoPerks and response surveys everywhere. We are offering a prize pack of some fun and useful commuter swag. You're welcome to keep your feedback anonymous, but if you would like to enter the drawing for the prize pack, just give us your email so we'll know how to let you know that you've won. So the link to that should be in the chat now. I'd like to say thank you finally here to the committee that made today possible. These folks worked so hard over the past 6 months and even in the past 3 days to bring today's program together, from collectively determining the theme to conducting interviews and background research, recording and editing video. The list goes on and on. All of the names are up here. I don't have time to shout them out individually, but I do want to call out Tyler Dewey at Duke, who did a lot of fantastic research for us on the links between transportation and equity in Durham, and my colleagues on the Sustainable Travel Services team. Kim Johnson coordinated everything with Secretary White's office. Shelley Parker coordinated with Governor Cooper and brought us his proclamation. And Paul Straw, the inimitable Paul Straw, who created the gorgeous presentation that you've all had something to look at besides my face for this whole hour. Thank you isn't enough, but it's all that we have time for right now. Thank you to all of you for being here today. A program is pretty pointless without an audience, so this really wouldn't be possible without all of you in attendance. Trust me when I say that we've only just barely been able to scratch the surface of this topic, but I hope that you've heard something that might stick with you and spur you to learn more, to make some changes where you're able, and to seek out perspectives and listen to some voices that you might not have heard before. Thank you again so much for being here today at the 2022 Golden Modes, and we hope to see you again next year. Have a wonderful afternoon.